This is Chris Malika Bhatra, and I welcome all of you to another episode of Child Chat and Community on Word Palette. Tonight, before maneuvering through the conversation, I want to tell you that tonight I'll be talking about grit, determination, and a story of extreme perseverance and hard work. Someone who had faced extreme difficult times but never let go. Someone we have a lot to learn from. Originally from Nigeria, I take extreme pleasure and honor in talking to and introducing Dozie Ojogho to all of you. Dozie, first of all, a huge round of thank you and a warm welcome to Chai Challenge community. And thank you so much for being with us and sharing your story with all of us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Dozie. I'm from Nigeria, West Africa. I'm originally from the eastern part of Nigeria, but I grew up from the west. I don't know if you know much about Africa, but my city is called Lagos. Um, I did my bachelor's, back there, and also invested and ran a couple businesses, and I did that to a point where I decided I just wanted to leave my comfort zone, and go expand my horizon, and seek greener pastures. And I came to Australia in 2014 to study for my masters. I play soccer, basketball. I like music, and yeah, it's nice to meet you all.
That's a big basket of things you've just mentioned, Rosie. We'll come to that one by one, like soccer. What else? So when you mentioned that you wanted to search greener pastures, why did you choose Australia? Like, why not probably US or UK? Why Australia?
That's a good question. The US, well, I'll put it this way. In 2009, there was a global financial crisis, right? And I, I've been fortunate to be able to travel, to certain countries, and I did I did a bit of research, looking at all the countries, and most of these countries were affected, during the global financial crisis, and Australia wasn't. So that was actually what caught my attention, and I decided to look further, into the country, and the GDP, and most of the circumstances around it, and I would say that that's the major reason, that I decided to pick Australia, because of how stable the economy is. That even if there's a crisis, it's quicker for the economy to bounce back.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So when you arrived as an international student, right?
Yep.
So what was the support structure when you moved? Like when you came to uni, how was the uni treating its own national students? That kind of friend circle you had around yourself. What did you observe being an international student?
It was new, firstly, and coming from Africa, to a country like Australia, it's like a 28-hour flight. Do you understand what I'm saying? To leave my place and come to Australia. So, and you come here, you also find out that there's not much Africans, especially
Yeah.
For my uni at the time. I went to when I attended Deakin. But when I was at Deakin, I don't think for like my first trimester, I probably could have met only like about 5 people, Nigerians in general. So, firstly was the weather. I arrived here on the 7th of July, very cold morning. And the hotels, which I booked, to stay, by the time I had gotten to the hotels, they had closed. So I was stranded. I had to appeal to the cab guy to take me to uni. So I had all my things at uni. I went to, the reception there, and I just told them, man, see, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. So, they just helped me put my things, aside. And, they had hostels. So I was, given an opportunity to just sleep and wake up because the next day my lecture started pretty much the next day. So the unis kind of showed support, for every time,
Hmm.
that I would reach out, because that's another thing, for international students, they really don't know where to look for help. You know,
Exactly.
we come from countries, well, I'll speak for myself, where because nothing is really handed to you, anytime you're confronted with something, you just try to you want to figure things out yourself.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But there could be structures in place. So I kind of started from there, and met one or two people. My first trimester, I stayed at the uni's hostel,
Hmm.
so I was able to socialize with, a few people that uh, I I started building my, social network from, and it, expanded from there.
Hmm.
Some were cool, some weren't so cool, but that's just life, pretty much,
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So that was like the initial period when you came here, student
Yeah,
life. You were
yeah,
seeing colors.
yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But then when you started living here, like let's say 6 months passed, 8 months passed, how different was Australian culture to the culture that you came from? In other words, did you have major troubles adjusting to Aussie way, as we like to call it? And what did you do to adjust?
It's it was it was very different. It's just the total opposite of everything. I come from where
Hmm.
we eat spicy food. Here you can't even, you get what I'm saying. Thank God for the Indian restaurants, and for the South, South Asians. Do you get what I'm saying? The weather is different
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
A lot of things, the cost of living,
Yeah.
everything is different. It's just that you tend to just, approach things in a different way and have an open mind
Hmm.
about it. So at about 6 months, I think I was still struggling. Do you
Hmm.
understand? I was still struggling in trying to wanna, integrate,
Yeah.
find my bearing. But like you just have to have an open mind and just keep taking every day as it is. And as time goes on, things will even out. There's a saying that for an international, who goes to a different country, it takes a minimum of 5 years for you to fully integrate into that system.
Hmm.
So 6 months too, because I already had that at the back of my mind. 6 months was just still me focusing mainly on my uni and my courses, because also the way of teaching, back home, school
It's
itself
different.
is totally different, from
Yes.
uni here. So
Yeah.
it's quite a lot. But if you just have an open mind to it and just stick to, probably a plan, because you should have a
Hmm.
plan before, coming here. And
Hmm.
I just took it that way, pretty much.
But Rosie, you talk about having an open plan, but for some students, sometimes it becomes just difficult, right? You have to cut your finances, you have to look back on your pays, bills, part time. So keeping all that in mind, did it ever occur to you like this is it? It's not happening. I'm packing my bags and moving on. Did that thought ever come to your mind?
No, it didn't. It didn't. But I've been with people that it did. Do you
Hmm.
understand what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And there
Yeah.
are some people who went back
Hmm.
because they couldn't. There was a guy, I think my first 6 months, who went back because he what he's and this is serious, right? He developed a mental health issue,
Okay.
because he just couldn't find how, he didn't know the reason why, people wouldn't communicate with him,
Mm-hmm.
the way he expected. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Why people would look
Yes.
at him differently, you know, things just, it didn't add up to a point where he just went inside his apartment, and locked himself up and didn't want to come out. He didn't
So,
want to come out at all. You know,
which place was he from originally?
my country, Nigeria.
Oh,
Yeah, so we had to all, come together, raise funds for him, and we sent him back home. Do you know what I'm saying? But in saying that, right, um, there are times where things can be really challenging.
yeah.
Problems never end. It could be
Mm,
one thing or the other. Like back home, and I'm saying this because I think for in South Asia, it's pretty similar where we come from a communal house, we come from
yes.
communal places where you can still live in your parents' house or you can live with friends. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm,
But compared to here, where if you don't pay your rent, you're going to be out in the streets. So how can you be
yeah.
able to balance between, working, schooling, do you understand?
Mm,
Earning money, studying. It's a whole lot. That's why, I said what I said earlier that, you just have to have a plan. You have to just figure a way out in which you can be able to just work out that plan, because ideally the first 1 or 2 years is you are going to be challenged with all that stuff. But if you are able to just ride the wave, one way or the other, you should be able to see yourself through. But if there are things that are
so,
going to make you want to give up, a lot of things will confront you definitely.
no, no, they are so valuable words, Dozie. I hope many students who are listening to you tonight will gain some energy and inspiration, especially the ones who were COVID-19 last year. Coming back to your professional life, Dozie, you have
Yeah,
an MBA, but
yeah,
even having an MBA from such a prestigious university, you really didn't get that break in your field of work. So,
yeah.
on that, I want to talk about your experience, rather hear from your own mouth what exactly happened. And then, if you could just cover it up by saying that how easy or difficult is it for an international student to get that desired breakthrough? We'll start with your story first.
Um, I think I'm just gonna mix everything together. Do you understand? Firstly, I'll just say it's not easy. Do you understand?
Mm,
Unless you have someone, who has paid the price for you.
yeah. Mm,
Do you understand? Then okay, maybe there might be a chance, but it's not easy. And even if I'm saying it's not easy, I'm still saying it's not impossible. You know what I
true.
mean? Because after, if as a matter of fact, whilst at uni, um, I kept applying. I've been applying for jobs for since 2014. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm,
But there's one thing, and I'm gonna be honest about it. There's one thing, like I said, a lot of international students don't know how to utilize university resources.
yeah. Yeah.
When I came, I worked as a frontliner, for the United Nations High Commission for Refugees as a student.
Mm,
So, pretty much, I'm sure the people who, stop you on the streets, shopping centers, come knock on your doors if possible.
mm, mm,
I did that, and fortunately, it kind of toughened me up as well. I did that for a while, and I was fortunate to become the team manager. But I did that
okay.
whilst I was studying at Deakin. So
Mm,
eventually, by the time I was graduating from Deakin, I was fortunate to have been made the team manager for Melbourne, right? But because I still knew that that was not the career path, I actually could have had a very good career path in the not-for-profits, but I still stuck to, what I believed in and what I wanted to achieve. And
mm,
after one of those times, I went to it's for Deakin University. It's called Deakin Hub, right? Where
mm,
they put out job ads, right?
yeah.
There you probably would find like 80, 90% of them. You would have the normal, you must be Australian citizen, Australian permanent resident, all that stuff, right? But there are a few of them, right, that those barriers aren't there. So at that point, I was fortunate to be able to apply for a particular job. It was a sales role. It was sales cadet role,
Hmm.
right? Fuji Xerox Australia, and I went through the interview processes. And it's funny because as an international, right, I applied for that interview, and because of how desperate I wanted that job, I got to the interview about 2 hours and 45 minutes before time, right? So when I got there, because there's certain things that you have to, you have to show that you
Exactly.
want, that you need the job. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? So I got
Yes.
there before time, and whilst the interview was going on, as a matter of fact, I was the first person who came for the interview, right? But in as much as I came for that interview 2 hours 45 minutes before time, I was interviewed the last person. So
What?
I long story. That's where things now. There are certain questions that it is just what it is. You know,
Okay.
I was there, and every other person who came for that interview, I saw them come. Right, all I just asked was, can I please have somewhere to sit down? And everybody who came for the interview, I saw them come, going for the interview and leave, come, going for the interview and leave, each and every one of them. So when it was my turn, I was the last person to be interviewed. When it was my turn, I didn't know that the executive general manager, Asia Pacific, had noticed that I was just sitting down, and I came as early as I came. So when I went in for the interview, he came into that interview as well and just decided to hang around. And he just wanted to hear, everything I was saying. The interview went on, everything, you know, that was the first day. So when I left the interview on that day, as I was leaving, I thanked everybody. And he called me and he said, "Why did you come so early?" That was his question. "Why did you come so early?" And I told him that I really need this job. He said, "Okay, no problems, that they'll get back to me." And they called me for a second interview. So when they called me for the second interview, now he now decided to be a part of it, and we were all there. Everybody was, like the HR, manager, a lot of people were there. You know how these interviews can be. And I now spoke about myself, spoke about everything that I've done in the past, because I've owned my business back home as well. And I was able to express myself, because you have to be confident. You have to be, you have to express yourself, and show that you really need the job. And
Mm.
yeah, fast forward, I got that job to be a sales cadet, at Fuji Xerox. That's when I then left the UNHCR. I continued from there, and like as an international too, you find out that you have to work like 5 times harder than everybody.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
put in the
Yeah.
work, for you to be able to, break even, or for you to be able to find your way around. So I put in the work my first year as a cadet, and I was fortunate to be able to win, some good deals for the organization. And after that, they employed me full time, as a business development manager, at Fuji Xerox. But things continued for some time, and still, on the back of what I just said about applying for jobs, the organization is a wonderful organization. They have like massive 80% market share in Australia, but
Yeah.
it got to the point whereby certain things didn't align. I could have continued to build a career from there, but like I said, if you have a plan, I came
Yeah.
to Australia with a plan, and I had a goal, I had a vision. But it wasn't easy for me to be able to implement any of them. But I knew that for every time in which I had an opportunity, I would try my best to utilize it. So whilst working
mm,
for Fuji Xerox, I went back to RMIT to study a course in developing blockchain strategies. Because I
mm,
have an IT background as well. Um, and after studying that course, I presented something to my senior leadership, for
yeah,
systems that I felt that could be implemented for the organization to
mm,
grow. But the response I got from it, kind of just made me feel unsettled inside. Like I'm not gonna be here for too long because things do not, align the way I want them
yeah,
to
yeah,
align. And I started looking for jobs again. You know, I couldn't find any job, but I knew that if I was comfortable in that position, I would continue being there and I would never
yeah,
achieve what I came here to achieve. So I now
mm,
got a job. I went back to Deacon Hub again. I went back to Deacon Hub and I spoke to a lady in graduate recruitment. And, after some time, she came back to me and she said, there's this position in car sales,
mm,
right? And I looked at myself, I'm like, I'm here. I have to go back to car sales. But I needed to get out of there. And I come from a country where, like I said, it's a third world country. It's not all fun and games. Do you understand?
mm,
Sometimes if you being in an uncomfortable position, brings the best out of you.
exactly.
So moving to car sales was a sideways move, which I felt like I if I'm here, I will find my way out because I know that I don't have to be in car sales. But I'm very good in sales. I've always made good, sales records in every way I've been
Mm,
worked in Australia. So I went to car sales. Even the people at Fuji Xerox, they looked at me and they were like, "You are going to car sales from a corporate organization. We don't know what your plan is, but we don't understand." Do you understand what I'm saying? But as God and fortune may have it, the moment I resigned, and also another thing I'd like to say is, for international students, I don't know what your visa status is, but that is something you should have in mind from the first day you step into this country. If you know that you want to be in this country for the next 5, 10 years, you should start planning for what and how you're going to get your visa sorted. Because if you have
yeah,
dreams and goals and you don't have that included in your plan, I think you probably might be wasting your time because you might get stuck at some point.
yes,
So, and another thing that made me join the organization was they verbally agreed that they were going to sponsor me, but that didn't happen. I got stuck. But thankfully, right, I had a plan. Do you understand? So, as
mm,
at the time I was able to execute my plan, I had applied for my visa myself. You know, but I
mm,
had to wait. So now at Volkswagen, my first week, I was going through training, and because it's just destiny, that came together. The universe aligned this time. My first week, I was walking past the service desk, right, and the phone rang. Ideally, I wasn't supposed to pick that call, but there was nobody there, so I was like, I'll just pick it. I picked the call, and it turned out to be somebody who was on the other end of the call. Um, His name is Alex. He said he's been
mm,
calling a lot of dealerships and nobody wants to assist him. He's looking for this, he's looking for that, and one of the things he's looking for, we have it at that dealership. So I told him, okay, please, for what it's worth, this is my first week. That vehicle that you're looking for, my manager said I shouldn't go anywhere near that vehicle. But because nobody has been able to assist you, I will do the very
mm,
best that I can to make sure that I can, resolve your situation because that's what you do as a salesman. You help resolve a client's, need.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he said he was going to be patient with me. It took me half of that day to be able to put everything he needed together. And the next day, my manager called me. I said, I told you not to go near that car. I'm like, man, I didn't want to go near the car, but I got the call and there was somebody and he needed help. And he was like, hey, I'm not calling, to scold you or something, but the guy who you assisted, he bought the car. It was like an $85,000 car. It was the most expensive car at that time, on in the showroom. And for somebody who it was his first week in selling cars, he sold the most expensive car that's been there for like a couple months. The guy says he
Mm.
wants to see you. So the guy came, and when he came, we now had that conversation, and it was like, "Thank you for helping me out and everything." Then he now started asking me certain questions. So I was telling him what I was doing, told him my background, just the same way, I'm explaining myself to you now. And he said, "You're not supposed to be here." And I'm like, "I know, but there's nothing I can do about it. I've been applying for jobs, but I can't get the job." Then I now told him I was writing certain certification courses and all. And I told him I was writing the certification course in Salesforce. At that point, I didn't know who he was, and I didn't want to. It wasn't. I didn't bother to know. All I just wanted to do was make sure that I helped him and he was happy.
Yeah.
And that's how I built a good relationship with him. And it kept on going over time until about 6 months later, he came back. He needed help with something. I helped him out with it. And he was like, hey, how about that Salesforce thing that you're doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm still on it. I'm, preparing to, write my first certification exams. And he was like, do it. Something just made me ask, hey, what do you do, Alex? Just out of nowhere. It turned out to be that this guy then he was the MD of the Salesforce business division in Accenture. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He was like, yeah, you didn't ask. I didn't ask. You didn't tell me. And he said, see, you are the kind of person that we need in our organization, and you have the right skill sets. But the only thing is for you to have a chance, and that was what he said. For you to have a chance from your level, you will need, to have this certification, that certification. I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna get those certifications. It was like, well, good luck. It took me 1 year and 6 months to get those certifications. That's after going to work from morning till night, I come back home and I start studying. I put in the work. Like at that point, I didn't even, I just kept going. I don't know how, but I just kept going. And eventually, when I got those certifications, I reached out to him and he said he had resigned from Accenture. I'm like, what the hell is happening here? But he told me one thing. It was his last week at Accenture. He introduced me to the new MD of Accenture, and I spoke to the lady. And after I spoke to the lady was convinced in her own way and put me through the interview process. And I went through the interview process again, and that took another 1 year. But eventually, as at the time whereby it was ready, right? I'll just pause there for now because as an international again, whilst at Volkswagen, when the pandemic hit, right? I didn't have job keeper. So
Yeah.
whilst my colleagues were home, you understand, not working, I was working. I was hustling, as a matter of fact, because I wasn't working. I was working and I was earning about maybe $300 a month, whilst they were home earning about $3,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are the things that ideally would make you be like, I'm done. I'm getting out of here. But you can't
Yeah.
if you still have that goal. I continued to the point whereby they told me, hey, you can't work anymore, because there's a freeze on everything. So for 8 straight months, I didn't earn $1.
God.
Everything I survived from June, July last year, right, was all my savings. So if you don't have savings, or if you're not planning to save, you're setting yourself up for failure one way or the other. Because if there's an emergency, I don't know, unless you have some source somewhere, then
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So, all these things kept going on. And at some point in October, I went to where I was working, and I told him, see, I'm done working here. I'm not going to do this anymore. The pandemic kind of changed my entire focus. It just changed my mindset entirely, because the organization didn't really care. Do you understand what I'm saying? It weren't really bothered if I existed or not. So I just told them there's no point me technically working here when I'm not earning anything. I don't have access to my super, because technically I'm working. I don't even have permanent residency. It all just didn't make any sense to me. The day I resigned from that organization, the day I resigned, I just told them, thank you very much for everything. I'm gone. The very next day after I resigned, I got my permanent residency. I got my permanent residency. And that kind of opened doors as well for me, because as soon as I got my permanent residency, I sent it to Accenture. And all those jobs still that, permanent residency could hinder you on for,
yeah,
right? I applied. If I and International students, please, I need you to know this, right? Get ready to apply for jobs. It doesn't really matter. You probably say you applied 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs, you're not even scratching the surface. Get ready to apply for at least 50 jobs every week. Do you understand what I'm saying? Put yourself out there, network, LinkedIn, put yourself out there, try and affiliate yourself with professionals in different industries, especially the industries that you want to go into.
yeah,
Before I joined Accenture, I think I probably could have networked with over 20, 30 people in the organization. Even whilst I was selling cars, anybody I sold the car to that was in Accenture, I told them that I was coming to your company, because eventually, when I joined Accenture, they saw me and they were like, "You said you were going to join us, and eventually you did." So, at the end of the day, after all, after everything that went through, Accenture came. In between, I was working part time with an organization called Ability Works. Ability Works with the CEO, Sue Boyce, wonderful lady who supported me all through. But eventually, Accenture, came, and when I applied as an analyst, which is an entry position, but the MD, the lady whom I told you about, she called me and she said, "I've looked at your experience and I've seen everything that you've done. We can't employ you as an analyst." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh my God, I've lost this one again." She was like, "No, we're going to employ you as a consultant, which is like 2 levels up,
wow,
which actually fits my role." So, I'm saying this because in the process of all these struggles, right, I was building experience unconsciously. I was I was integrating myself into the Australian, system. So you get to talk to people more, you get to understand people more, you get to understand how things work, you get to understand how you can be able to place yourself in different, in social, groups, things of that nature. Unconsciously, I was gradually fitting myself in to all these places, and kind of all those boxes. By the time they probably could have had their meetings, all those boxes were ticked already.
Mm.
And today I'm a consultant with Accenture. My dreams have, in that regard, professionally, have come true. Sometimes a lot of people, because it's just the people around me. Sometimes even my partner too. When she says, "Why aren't you excited?" or any of all that stuff. But I put in work. I put in so much work that it's happening now, and I'm not gonna say I've gotten to where I want to be. You understand? But I think the work and the effort have just put me in a position where, you know, since 2014,
Yeah.
I'm just beginning to feel like I'm in Australia.
If
So,
if anything, your story is inspiration to the power infinity and much more, right?
yeah,
Because being an international student myself, although our roots are very different, but this story comes across as something very, very endearing, positive, and motivational.
yeah,
I'm mindful of the time. I don't want to end this, but somewhere we have to. So before we wrap up this chat, Dozie, I'm sure a
yeah,
lot of international students, a lot of would-be international students are listening to us. So
yeah.
before you end this conversation, what would be that one-liner message, or would be those two, three words that you would like to kind of, give out as advice to all those young people who want to build their lives or stories in Australia or in any other international country?
Um, I think my candid advice is, before you leave your comfort zone, which I think I would always, you know, encourage any other person who wants to. What are your priorities? These are the questions that I think you should ask yourself. What are your priorities? What are your long-term goals? That country, that you're going to, you understand? Do you see a future in it? If you see a
Yeah.
future in it, and what are your plans for the next 5, 10 years?
Mm.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Then
Yeah.
also you now ask yourself, what skill sets do I have? And those skill sets, are they relevant where I'm going to? Because those skill sets really are the skill sets that are going to provide your bread and butter until you
Yeah.
find your way. Do you understand? So these are things that you actually need to arm yourself with, and if you can be able to answer those questions, it will help you, in making a decision to even leave in the first place. And even if you're there already, it will help you create a guide, that will see you through. And no matter what situation or and this is just the inconvenient truth, that you will have not major problems, God forbid, but you will always encounter challenges, because this is not your original home.
Yeah.
So everything is going to be different. So you will always encounter either be it your name, be it the way you talk, be it the way you act, anything. Do you understand? It will always be an issue, but you have to have an open mind, rise beyond it, rise above it, get your plans in place, stick to your plans, stick to your goals, and may the universe, bless you. May God bless you. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's very well said, Dozy. And I think another thing that you mentioned very rightly early on in your conversation is savings, right?
Yeah,
We need
100%.
mindful of money and our finances, so savings
Hun-
also.
100%. A lot of people want to buy the nice bit cars and all that stuff. Yeah, those things are good. Do you understand? But when there's an issue, I had a friend who went back home and he was struggling to sell a car. Do you understand? But look, live within your means. Do you understand? Because by the time you start studying and doing every other, nobody really wants to know the kind of car you drive. If you have a good car, that's fine. But always have a kitty, always have money, Do you understand? Because it could be even to, apply for visa. It could be for what's this stuff? The professional year. Do you understand?
Yeah,
Because people get to do that professional year. It could get
yes,
to a time whereby what you really need at that point to be able to get your visa is a professional year, and you now start scrambling when probably you could have saved enough money to be able to pay for your professional year. See, you're not an Australian citizen, so you're not until you are save,
you got to
because
save.
there are a lot of
Yeah,
things to pay money for. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's it.
that's amazing. Golden words of advice, Dozie. And coming from an international student himself, this couldn't be anywhere better than what you've just said in these 40 minutes. Thank you so much, Dozie, for joining me tonight. This was
Pleasure
so
is all
inspirational.
mine.
And I hope my listeners and all our audiences will take away a lot of learnings from Dozie's journey, his story, and his life. Please write to us if you have any feedbacks. Till then, stay safe, stay well, and we will meet you very soon. Thank you for watching us.